Okay, here's lecture number 2 covering titles and introductions. I really like the textbook for this class, but one of the things your textbook doesn't do very well is it doesn't cover some of this basic stuff that we're going to be reviewing this week. And I think that's because the editors of your textbook make the assumption that by the time you get into freshman composition in college, you already know most of this stuff. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I do guarantee if you graduated from high school, you have been introduced to this stuff. Some people choose to file it away in memory and pull it up when it's needed. Most people decide it's irrelevant and choose to forget it as quickly as possible. So when you get into college, I have found with most of my students it's necessary to do a little review of stuff that you already know but have chosen to forget. So I'm going to go down through the list of the elements of a college level essay. I'm going to take them starting from the top, working to the bottom, and then we'll have some little exercises that will get you a chance to practice this stuff. So let's start with titles. Remember that first impressions last forever, and first impressions are very powerful. The very first thing a reader sees is your title. And so if your title is boring or unimaginative or uncreative, the reader will expect the rest of the essay to also be boring and uncreative. So it's worth laboring on your title a little bit to make sure that it's creative enough that it catches the reader's attention and that it interests the reader if possible. You can't control the interest of the reader, but you can make an effort in their direction. So there's one resource in this week's module which you need to read about how to write a good title. The second piece that the reader sees when they pick up your finished essay is your introduction. And here's where I want to talk about your audience. I know that for a lot of folks you think it's you sitting at home typing with one hand and doing something else with the other hand, and nobody cares what you have to say and nobody's going to listen to what you have to say, and blah 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 and blah. But in fact, writing is always a two-way street. There's always an audience, whether it's just you making a grocery list to remind yourself when you get to the store what you need to buy, or whether it's you writing a speech as to why you should be elected President of the United States. There's always an audience. Someone is always listening, and you can count on that. So let me define your audience for you. I call it the person in the doctor's office. You're not writing to me as your teacher. You're writing to the other colleagues in your class, but really your sort of generic audience is this person in the doctor's office. This person has some education, is of at least average intelligence, possesses the ability to focus for more than 30 seconds at a time, and is sitting in the doctor's office and they have to wait a little while, and so they picked up a magazine. And in that magazine is your essay, and whether that audience reads your essay and listens to your voice, or whether they pass you by and listen to someone else's voice, depends entirely upon your title and your introduction. So it's basically a gesture of respect toward your audience and your reader to try to capture their interest. And the first question to ask is, what does this person already know about your topic? And if there's something they don't know, what do they need to know to be able to understand you? So for instance, if you're writing on the topic of global warming, chances are that fairly well-informed person in the doctor's office knows something about the topic already and is ready to listen to your opinion on the topic. On the other hand, if your essay is on the effect of quantum physics on the production of musical sound, chances are the average reader doesn't know much about that and will need to be informed about some of the basic stuff before they can understand you and listen to your voice. And it's a gesture of basic respect to say, hey reader, here's a topic I'd like you to read about. Here's some background you may not know, so let me inform you a little bit about the topic so that we can actually communicate with each other. And it's a profound gesture of disrespect for your reader to just start talking and hope that they catch on, because they won't. You like to be respected, I like to be respected, readers like to be respected. And the moment one disrespects a reader, that reader stops reading. I have to read it because I get paid to read it, but it's sometimes painful for me. So when you're writing your introduction, ask yourself, what does the average reader already know? You have to make a guess. Of course it's a guess. But what does the average reader already know? What do they not know? And what information do I need to supply to enable them and empower them to understand me? So there are some things, there's I think 2 or maybe 3 resources in this week's module about how to write an introduction. Again, those are the recipes. If you follow the recipe, it goes well. If you don't, it's harder for you. The one is really poor quality. I have to apologize. That's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and I don't even know where the original is. And every iteration of it, I lose some of the quality on it. I'm eventually going to have to break down and type the whole thing for myself. But remember, your opening strategy is to engage with your reader and to respect them enough to empower them to make the effort to listen to you. And to not do that is, readers take it as disrespectful, and if you disrespect someone, they don't listen to you. You know this. So the one thing I can suggest is you're going to review those resources in the module, and then there's going to be a little assignment. So you're going to write a little introduction on a topic I'm going to choose for you in this case. But think about it this way. Why are the politicians so anxious to catch each other out in telling lies and not keeping their promises and not respecting their voter base? Well, it's because a person who doesn't respect their audience is deemed to be not worthy of public office, of the responsibility. So remember the effort to connect with your reader, whether your reader is yourself at some future date when you get to the grocery store, or whether the reader is someone you're trying to persuade or inform, or whether the reader is your voting public who you're trying to get to elect you as president. There's always someone listening. There's always someone out there, whether you ever see them or not, and most of the time you won't. They're there. And so all you have to do is put yourself in your reader's shoes for 5 minutes and figure it out. And then you supply, using the recipes I've provided for you, you supply that information to your reader in order to respect them and empower them to listen to you. Okay, so this is a really short one. Please, once you finish this video, go and review that stuff. Some of it you may have to download. Some of it will open inside the window. Some of it you have to download. But there's a lot of good information and a lot of recipes there. And that's how you do it. Those are the ways you get it done. The other ways are not the ways you get it done. Again, I'm trying to make this as simple and as easy for you as possible so that you can be successful by efficiently using your time. Okay, so please go review that stuff, and then there will be a small assignment and some discussions in the forum this week. Okay, see you on the next one.